Imagine, if you will, 3 men disappearing without a trace from a lighthouse, sealed against the unforgiving ocean. No bodies, no screams, no sign of struggle, just a fully functioning light, a table set for dinner, and absolute, chilling emptiness. It's a riddle that has haunted the cold, dark waters of the North Atlantic for over a century, and to this day, no one has ever truly solved it. What really happened to the 3 keepers of the Flannan Isles lighthouse? How could 3 human beings simply vanish from the face of the earth, from an isolated island, leaving behind not a single convincing piece of evidence? This story begins in the late 19th century with the construction of the Flannan Isles lighthouse. The isles themselves are nothing more than a cluster of desolate, craggy rocks, flung without ceremony into the heart of the North Atlantic, just off the rugged coast of Scotland. It's a place utterly devoid of life, perpetually wrapped in a frigid embrace, where the wind bites at your face like 1,000 invisible whips, and the waves, oh, the waves. They don't just roll in, they erupt, colossal mountains of water rising from the abyss to smash against the ancient stone. The specific island where our story unfolds is called Eilean Mor, which means the Big Island, and it was there, amidst that savage beauty, that the lighthouse was built, a solitary sentinel, designed to guide ships through those treacherous, unforgiving waters. Picture it in your mind, a towering, formidable structure, standing alone against the encroaching darkness, its powerful beams slicing through the blackness and the swirling fog. This was no flimsy structure. It was a fortress, built to withstand the most furious gales the Atlantic could muster. Inside, a dizzying spiral staircase wound its way upwards, past narrow, functional rooms, each just large enough for its purpose. To keep this vital beacon burning, 3 experienced keepers were required at all times. These were hardened men, specially trained, who would spend weeks, sometimes months, completely alone, cut off from the entire world. Their only companions were the ceaseless roar of the waves and the mournful, whistling sigh of the wind. That kind of profound, unbroken solitude, you see, it can do things to a person. It can drive even the strongest mind to the very edge of sanity. On December 7th, 1900, a fresh trio of these seasoned keepers arrived to begin their shift. All 3 were veterans of the service, intimately familiar with the demands of their lonely profession. There was James Duckett, the principal keeper, a man whose hair had long since turned white from years of faithful service, a picture of experience and unwavering reliability. Beside him was Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, a man of quiet competence. And finally, the youngest of the group, Donald MacArthur, still experienced despite his age. These 3 men made their way up to the island, bringing with them all their provisions, and waved a final goodbye to the departing crew. Not one of them, I guarantee you, could have imagined that this would be the last time anyone would ever see them alive. The days that followed were, by all accounts, supposed to be unremarkable. The lighthouse beam faithfully cut through the night, every single night. That was their job, their sacred duty, the most important thing. Until December 15th. A passing steamship, the Architeur, was making its way through the shipping lanes. Its captain, an experienced seaman, peered out towards the Flannan Isles, expecting to see that familiar, reassuring glow guiding them through the darkness. But there was nothing, only an impenetrable blackness. The light, the one constant in that desolate stretch of ocean, was gone. The captain, bewildered and deeply concerned, immediately reported the anomaly, sending an urgent message that the lighthouse had gone dark. This, as you can imagine, sparked immediate alarm. The 4th keeper, Joseph Moore, who was scheduled to relieve them in a few days, was immediately ordered to prepare for an urgent departure to investigate. But fate, it seems, had other plans. Just as preparations were underway, a monstrous storm descended upon the North Atlantic. Winds howled with a mad fury, and waves, truly gigantic waves, hammered the ancient rock like heavy artillery. This was a storm so severe, so relentless, that it utterly prevented any ship from even approaching the island for more than 10 agonizing days. Just try to picture that. 3 men, alone, swallowed by the heart of the ocean, the lighthouse dark, and no one able to reach them. There was no way to communicate, no telephones, no radio. Just a terrifying, all-encompassing silence, and a darkness that, by itself, could unravel the human mind. And amidst all this, whispers began to circulate, dark, unsettling rumors about the lighthouse logbook. The unofficial word was that before the light went out, before the storm hit, strange entries had been made. They said that on December 12th, just days before the Archeater reported the darkness, the keepers had written about an incredibly violent storm, and that they were afraid. Now, here's the thing. These keepers were known as men of iron, seasoned professionals who faced gales routinely. Fear of a storm was simply not in their nature. And even stranger, when officials later checked the official meteorological records for those specific days, there was no mention of a storm anywhere near that severity. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What exactly were they writing in that logbook? And what, precisely, were they seeing that could make even these hardened men admit to fear? Days dragged on, the storm raged, and there was nothing anyone could do. Finally, on December 26th, more than a week after the light was first reported out, the weather finally relented. The relief vessel, the Hesperus, the very ship that regularly ferried the keepers to and from their lonely post, was at last able to reach that cursed island. Joseph Moore, the 4th keeper, stepped ashore alone, his heart, he would later say, beating like a drum of war. He tried to convince himself that it was all just a misunderstanding, that the keepers were inside, waiting to open the door. As he walked across the slick, wet rock, there was no sound. No shout of welcome, not even the familiar cries of the gulls that usually filled the air. Only a profound, terrifying silence, as if the entire island had been drained of every living soul. Joseph approached the base of the lighthouse, and that's when he saw it. The heavy iron door, standing ajar, half open. And it was right then, at that precise moment, that Joseph later confessed. A chill ran through him so deep that he wished he had never even stepped foot on that island. He pushed the door open fully and entered, his voice echoing unnaturally as he called out, "James, Thomas, Donald." There was no reply, only the hollow echo of his own voice, thrown back at him, as if the lighthouse itself was swallowing him into its terrifying, silent maw. He looked around, and immediately noticed something profoundly unsettling. Every single clock in the lighthouse, they were all stopped, simultaneously, as if time itself had simply ceased to exist the moment they vanished. Joseph began to climb the winding spiral stairs, and in each narrow room he entered, he found things that made his mind reel. Beds were unmade, but not in a way that suggested a struggle. Just ordinary rooms, but with an unsettling, indefinable wrongness about them. He continued his ascent, his dread mounting, until he finally reached the kitchen. And it was there that the true shock hit him. The dining table was half prepared, as if they had been on the verge of eating. A plate was set, a fork laid out, but there was no food. And crucially, only one chair lay overturned on the floor, as if the person sitting there had risen abruptly, perhaps in haste, or had been knocked over. Just try to visualize that scene. People in the middle of a mundane activity, and then, in an instant, everything stopped, as if they had simply evaporated. But it gets even stranger. Joseph checked their living quarters, specifically looking for their oilskins, those heavy, waterproof coats designed to protect them from the brutal rain and wind. He found 2 of them, hanging neatly in their usual place, Thomas Marshall's and Donald MacArthur's. But the principal keeper's oilskin, James Duckett's, was nowhere to be found. What does that mean? It means 2 of the keepers were apparently inside the lighthouse, their coats still hanging, presumably needing them to go outside. Yet the 3rd, the head keeper, was either out without his coat, or had taken it and then vanished. This implies that whatever happened, it occurred with incredible speed, or perhaps it was an urgent, Immediate emergency that left no time for them to fully prepare or dress. And where was the distress signal? The lighthouse was equipped with advanced communication gear, allowing them to send messages in case of danger. But nothing had been sent. Only total, unnerving silence. And the lighthouse itself? There was no sign of vandalism, no broken windows, no structural damage, nothing, absolutely nothing, to indicate that a devastating storm had passed through. How could a storm powerful enough to sweep away 3 grown men leave the lighthouse and all its sensitive equipment completely unharmed, perfectly intact? After days of relentless searching, and with the arrival of official investigators, including Robert Muir, the superintendent of lighthouses, the official inquiry